Hey guys, in today's video, I'm going to compare Ronnie Coleman's 2002 Mr. Olympia winning version against his 2003 Mr. Olympia winning version. The difference between his 2002 and 2003 version is kind of like a meh to an amazing. And you guys are going to see in this comparison how much of a difference 1 year can make in terms of Ronnie Coleman's physique. This video idea was actually a fan request, and I honestly thought it would be a really cool comparison. So without further ado, let's get into the first shot of this comparison. This first pose, the front double bicep shot, reveals how good Ronnie Coleman's arms were in 2003 and just how massive he was. I mean, the improvements he was able to make in just this shot alone in 1 year is insane. Look at the biceps in 2002. The biceps are just so flat and deflated, and he looks really, flat overall. So, same with the triceps, guys. Now, if we look at 2003, his biceps and triceps are massive. They are huge. They're utterly destroying his 2002 arms. The midsection in 2002 does look better. It looks very streamlined and it's not really spilling over anywhere. However, Ronnie Coleman's overwhelming mass in this shot for 2003 is just unbeatable. I mean, look at the difference in the quads, guys. Ronnie Coleman's quads in 2002 were not all too bad. However, in 2003, he took it up a notch. Ronnie Coleman did bring a pretty bad package in 2002 relative to himself from previous years, as I mentioned in my last video on him. But, he cannot compare with his 2003 version. So I'm going to give the 2003 Ronnie Coleman the point in this first shot. I should have mentioned this earlier. However, Ronnie Coleman's 2002 version brought pretty decent conditioning, and that is very evident in the first two poses. I mean, look at his chest, it's pretty striated, his arms look conditioned, his midsection is in check, and the legs are deeply cut. However, if we look at the 2003 version in the front lat spread, it's just filling out so well. I mean, look at the lats, guys. Look at the arms, they're huge, chest and shoulders striated from all angles. Midsection doesn't look all too bad, and the quads are just humongous and also deeply cut. Ronnie Coleman's 2002 version just lacks that sting that 2003 or other versions had, and he just really looks so downsized. His muscles don't appear to be as full, and he's really just not filling out this front lat spread at all. You can't really say he looks bad, but relative to his other versions, he doesn't look too impressive. And therefore, this is again a pretty easy win for Ronnie Coleman's 2003 version, so he's going to get the point here. So I just want to apologize quickly for this shot here. Ronnie Coleman is tilting just a little bit, which is making his side leg a harder area to judge between these two. Now, if we focus on the upper body, Ronnie Coleman's arms in 2002 are pretty clearly downsized and smaller than his 2003 version, but they are really cut. Now, the chest, again, is going to be downsized in 2002, and look at how full and ripped 2003's chest is. That is amazing. And like I said, you can't really discern much in the leg department. However, Ronnie Coleman just overall looks thicker, bigger, and just as conditioned in this side chest pose in 2003. And I think it's relatively easy to call it that Ronnie Coleman's 2003 version would be winning a point here. I mean, just look at how good he looks. He looks really good in terms of the actual muscle, muscle density and conditioning. And not to say his 2002 version looks bad, but come on, guys. 2003 would walk all over his 2002 version. The side tricep pose is again unfortunate because Ronnie Coleman's '03 version this time is tilting his leg just a little bit. However, even though he's tilting, look at how much bigger '03's leg is than '02's. I mean, that is insane. Just as conditioned, but bigger. Now, the midsections, I honestly, it's not really impressing me for either of them. However, Ronnie Coleman's '03 version looks really streamlined and good, whereas the '02 version, while it's definitely the way he's hitting the shot, you can kind of see some distension almost in that midsection, which doesn't look all too pleasing. But I will say, '02's chest looks amazing in this shot. Now, the tricep, very similar for both years. However, Ronnie Coleman's '03 version's tricep is definitely bigger and fuller, but just as striated and conditioned. The shoulder on '03 is humongous, and the chest, I will say Ronnie Coleman's '02 chest looks really good here, but that can't. This is a side tricep pose. The display I see in 2003 looks amazing, so I'm going to give Ronnie Coleman's '03 version a point. For the first of the two back poses, here we have the rear lat spread. You guys can clearly see that Ronnie Coleman's '02 version from behind is in pretty good condition. I won't, beat on him for that. He came in 2002 with some amazing condition, but just as clear as his condition is in O2, the lack of size is just as clear as well. Look at how big Ronnie Coleman's back and how wide and thick and dense it is in 2003 in comparison to his 2002 version. 2002, while it has superb conditioning, really lacks the size and the wow factor. The glutes in O3 are just so much more massive. The hamstrings look just bigger and fuller in O3. The calves look comparable between the two. Now, the actual back, like I said, is just wider in this lat spread. And look at the arms in O3, right? Look how big they are in O3. And look at how, much smaller they appear from behind in O2. That's just ridiculous to me. Also, Ronnie Coleman's lower back area in 2003 appears to be a bit thicker than O2. However, O2's, Christmas tree region looks a little bit better. But overall, the lack of size in O2, while he has some impressive conditioning, it's not enough at all. Not enough at all to defeat 2003. The second back pose, the rear double bicep shot, once again, I mean, you guys can kind of see it's a common theme, reveals how much better in terms of the muscularity Ronnie Coleman was in 2003. Firstly, take a look at how dense, wide, and thick Ronnie Coleman's 2003 back is. I mean, that is world class. O2's back is amazing too in its own right, and this pose altogether is great. However, O3 is just like a alien, whereas O2 is like a kind of like a human, right? Look at the glutes on O2. Very impressive, but we go to O3 and it just turns to an alien. I mean, what even is that, right? You go to the hamstrings in O2, those are world class hamstrings, but in O3, he just takes it up to another level. O3's lower body is dominating O2's lower body from behind. Now, if we look at the back once again, O3 is dominating in the back as well, and the arms are a no-brainer. We saw in the front double biceps how good his arms were, and from the back, no exception in O3. I mean, phenomenal. Ronnie Coleman, I mean, like I said, it's kind of a trend. Ronnie Coleman is winning this pose. His O3 version. I get confused because it's both Ronnie Coleman, but Ronnie Coleman's O3 version is winning here. The abs and thigh shot might be a pose that 2002 can come back in. Well, not really come back, but at least win, or not lose as badly. If we look at the midsection, it's a no-brainer. 2002 wins handily. Very streamlined and it looks relatively pleasing to the eye. The thighs would go to O3 because they are just more massive and just as ripped. The lat flare looks relatively comparable between the two versions, and the arms in O3 are just absolutely massive, but don't necessarily play a role in this shot. Now, I'd probably leave it up to the viewer to decide, because on one hand, you prefer a streamlined midsection, or at that, a more streamlined midsection relative to Ronnie Coleman, or do you prefer utter and sheer mass and destruction, which is O3? It's up to you. Personally, I think that O2 looks a lot more pleasing to the eye, and therefore I would give O2 a point, but it could go either way here. O2 is not winning by any more than just a hair. Okay, so for the last pose, this is the most muscular. I'll do a really quick rundown because honestly, if you have eyes, you can clearly see that O3 has more mass and is just as conditioned, but the biceps winning for O3, quads winning for O3, midsection probably very similar here, but probably an edge to O2, chest O3, conditioning very similar between the two. Traps, honestly, O2's traps look ridiculous here, guys. I can't tell you that they don't look better than O3 in my opinion. Maybe it's because O3 was so massive that his traps in O3 didn't look as impressive, but in O2, those traps are crazy. So, yeah, O3 winning in the mass and just as good conditioning, therefore he wins. So, like I said earlier, this was just a fun fan requested comparison. I want you guys to not take this video all too seriously because it is the same guy after all. I'm just comparing one of his worst versions against one of his best versions. So, if you liked the video, please like and subscribe. It always means a lot. Comment down below what you guys thought of this little comparison. If you guys think O2 should have been losing or winning other poses. And with that, I bid you all farewell. Thank you for watching and have a good day or night.